Happy Monday mid-morning, guys. Okay, obviously a bunch of you guys got to see what's going on this morning. Y'all know about the earthquakes that hit Turkey. It's not what I want to go into. I want to do a little bit of a follow-up because a lot of you watched the video that I posted yesterday, Sunday morning, from the meeting on Saturday afternoon. Days and days and days. Try to keep all the days straight. I apologize for the audio quality. I know a bunch of you guys have said that it was hard to hear, especially hear Frank Nicely. You got to understand, we were in a old American Legion hall. The acoustics weren't exactly good, okay? And Senator Nicely did not hold the microphone that close to his mouth. I was sitting in the front row about as close as I could get to him, and some of the things were difficult to understand. So I feel for you guys. Best I could do. There is no, as far as I know, there is no other recording of the meeting or anything like that. So it is what it is. But a lot of you guys in the comments, in emails, have brought up some questions, and I wanted to, as best I could, address them and give you at least what my ideas are. Now, you heard the questions that I asked in the meeting. There were 3 of them that I got in. I could have asked easily 10 more. The one was on the paper mile tax. That's immaterial, but I wanted to get their answer on that while I was there. But the other 2, the first one was on income tax. And, as I had asked, okay, if we've got our own state currency, how are we going to pay income tax? And Senator Nicely kind of made the joke. He goes, if you're still paying taxes, you aren't trying hard enough. Okay, that's a joke, Yes, we still have to pay income tax. That kind of brings up somewhat of a solution, because other questions I've got is, well, what about my paycheck? What if my paycheck comes in the form of CBDC? And again, this is all hypothetical that we wind up going there, but I think we all agree that this is the path that the communist government that we currently have wants to take us down. So yes, you are going to get paid in digital currency. Now, what can you do with it? Well, obviously, they're going to want control. The government's going to take CBDC. So, of course, you save whatever is in your CBDC account to pay your income tax. I highly doubt they're not going to let you pay your bills. Let's just say, for example, somebody asked this morning about how do we pay our mortgage, especially if it's an out-of-state mortgage company. Well, the first thing I would say is refinance your mortgage to an in-state bank. Okay, that would be the very first thing I'd do. But what do you do if you have income that's going to be CBDC? My guess is if you live in one of those blue communist states, that's how you're going to get paid. If you live in one of the 26 free states that Frank and Bud were talking about, chances are you're going to get paid in that currency. Now, again, we're all talking hypotheticals here, because, CBDC isn't out, a separate currency isn't out, anything, but I'm just kind of giving you an idea to look forward to on this. So then that brings the question of, well, if I get paid in state currency, how do I pay my income tax, right? Okay. This is my theory, okay? And again, I don't know if this is going to be possible, but this is going to be the way I think it would be the best way to play out. If you get paid in CBDC, immediately take your CBDC and go buy gold and silver, okay? Or if you have the ability, which I have a tendency to doubt this will work, is to convert it to Tennessee coin or whatever the hell they call this 26 state currency if it comes about, okay? I don't think the state's going to want the currency, the CBDC, but we'll see. But you're going to find places where you can spend it. Now, I understand where this comes up is, does somebody say, well, what if they limit how much gold and silver you can buy? That's a possibility. Like I said, I don't have all the answers. I'm just trying to figure out some solutions. Senator Nicely had brought up at one point that Americans are going to have to learn about currency exchanges. And that's very true, okay? Talking to Mrs. P, being in Europe, the Europeans before the euro, okay, but at least the Russians were very familiar with this. They take their money, let's just say for Mrs. P's sake, they take their rubles, they'd go to the bank and buy dollars, okay? And as the ruble got worth less and the dollars got worth more, that was how they were protecting their money. We are going to have to learn how to do the same thing. Americans really don't know much about currency exchange. Maybe at the best we know if you've traveled overseas, or maybe some of those, like when I was up in Michigan, those of you guys who are up on the border know, the influx of Canadian quarters, okay? And obviously the Canadian dollar is not worth as much as the US dollar, so, but you could still use a Canadian quarter in a vending machine 40 years ago. It worked. Obviously it doesn't now. Hell, you don't even use quarters in vending machines. But that's the thing. We're going to have to learn about currency exchange. So what is the dollar, or what is the CBDC going to convert to? Gold, silver, whatever. What is it going to convert to? Whatever this new currency would be. Those are the things that you're going to have to think about. That's a plan that you're going to have to make. You're going to have to figure out. I don't know how it's all going to work. Like I said, this is all in its infancy as to what happens, how it's going to be controlled. The biggest catch that you're going to have is the companies that you work for. If you work for, let's say you live in Alabama and they're one of the 26 free states, and you work for a company that's based out of New York, that's one of the 24 communist states, and they say, we're going to pay you in CBDC, you have two choices. You can either tell them, I will not take payment in CBDC, you will pay me in this currency, or you quit. Okay, that's it. That's what's going to happen. A separate currency from whatever's left of the United States government is the first step to balkanization. All right, a country, a definition of a country is a landmass that has distinct borders, a currency, and a national language. Okay, that's basically how you define country. The U.S. has kind of not really worried about the national language. I mean, English, we do not have a national language, guys. English is the accepted language, but we do not have an official language. We do have an official currency, and that's falling apart. And we do have borders, but those are falling apart. So what does that mean? That shows you right there how the United States is failing to live up to just the definition of being a country set up for balkanization. So the other question I asked that revolved around this was in regards to a depository. And this was a very important one to me because a lot of people are like, I'm not giving up my gold. And that was exactly what I said. The depository, as the senator put it, what they are pushing for is where the state would put its gold. And the people could put their gold if they wanted to. If they want to, they're idiots. Okay, never give up your precious metals, especially to a government, because if you listen to my follow-up question on that, I said, what's to prevent whoever's holding the money in the state level, holding the gold on the state level, to go, hey, we've got $1 billion in gold, let's borrow against it, and we're in the same shape we are now, 30 years later, where we're in so much debt, yada, 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 right? Okay, this is it. Never, ever, ever put your precious metals, anything like that. I don't care if it's a state depository or whatever. If they want a gold-backed currency, that's great. But one of the big keys is there needs to be, my opinion, something in that new constitution or new fiscal policy rules that the state cannot borrow against the assets in which they have because then that devalues the currency. If you've got, let's just use for example right now, 1 ounce of gold is the equivalent of $120 bills. That's it. They can't go borrow against it because now that will bring the price of gold down, which means your $20 bill is not worth as much, which now we get into inflation, and there's a whole bunch of places I could go totally wonky on this. But to me, it's a step in the right direction as to what they're talking about. Are all the kinks worked out? Oh, hell no. Okay, not even close. But in regards to this CBDC crap, that is what your way around this is. I know every answer to everything financially comes up to be gold and silver, and there's plenty of people that say, you can't eat gold and silver. I'm not going to want your gold and silver. That's fine. You don't want it? You're going to be left on the outside. I hate to tell you this, because when you want to buy a piece of property, when you want to buy bullets, I don't want your beans, okay? I can go grow my own beans. Ain't going to cost me anything. I'm going to want something that I can spend with the next guy. No matter how you slice this, and as much as everybody wants to complain about this, there has always been, in order for a civilization to work, some sort of mutually accepted currency. Gold and silver have never been worthless. As much as everybody wants to go biblical and say, oh, gee, they're going to be throwing the gold and silver out in the streets. You keep believing that. That's fine. Okay. The rest of us will deal in reality. But you have to have a medium of exchange. Throughout history, it's been salt, it's been seashells, it's been God knows what. But gold and silver has always had its value. CBDC, guys, has zero value. None. It is totally a control mechanism. The one thing that they cannot control is what you hold physically. And as much as you hear all the stories, just like 1935, they're going to confiscate all your gold. No, they're not. There's no possible way to do it. And all it's going to wind up doing, if they go to the CBDC, it's going to set up a secondary economy, basically a nationwide black market, because there will be plenty of stores that say, I don't accept CBDC. I only accept gold or silver. I only accept Tennessee coin or whatever the hell they, or Tennessee currency, whatever that would be. That's the only thing they're going to do. And when the federal government comes in and says, well, you owe us income tax, they go, no, I don't. I don't have any income. I did not take any CBDC at all this year whatsoever. This CBDC, guys, just so you know, is the first step to the complete breakup of the United States. Be prepared for that, because as soon as it comes, this country ceases to exist. Pinball out.